Okay, well, we are live and welcome to another SWTJC virtual town hall. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Dr. Hector Gonzales, who is the college president. But before we get into discussing some of the topics, which will be resuming face-to-face classes, summer and fall enrollment, graduation, plus just a myriad of other topics. Plus, we will also be accepting comments and questions from our viewers, and you can do that via the comment section on any one of the platforms, which is Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So we're streaming to all those. One thing I would remind everyone is if you know of a college student that would benefit from this stream, please share it with them, and also just copy the link and send it to them later also, because it'll also be living on all our platforms to be able to watch later on. So with that being said, Dr. Gonzalez, welcome. It's good to see you again. It's been a while since we've done this, and I'm glad to have you. So how have you been?
Glad to be here. And first of all, thank you for joining us. Thank you all the students, staff, community members out there joining us during your lunch hour, sharing some exciting news that we have to share with you regarding summer and fall. And so it's been virtually a year, literally a year, since we've been in remote operations. And I know that some of you are probably experiencing some COVID fatigue. It's understandable. You know, we've had to alter everything that we do, literally everything that we do over this past year, and it really has changed a lot of things. It has changed a lot of things for us as an institution, but I also understand it's changed a lot for us as individuals. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and I want to share with you, some of my thoughts and perspectives, and some exciting news for this summer.
All right. So I guess before we get started, again, I would like to remind everyone that Dr. Gonzalez will be available for questions. Anyone who has a comment or a question can do so in the comment section, and we'll have monitors as well that are going to be answering questions if we can't get to them for any reason. But rest assured that we will answer all your questions, whether it be during the broadcast or at a later time. So just to get started, Dr. Gonzalez, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is last month during the board meeting, you reported to the board of trustees that SWTJC will be resuming a more on-campus presence plus face-to-face classes to a certain degree. So can you just kind of take us through all that?
Sure. So before I want to preface that conversation with just a quick overview of where we're at with COVID and COVID in our service area in the communities that we serve. And as I stated earlier, the COVID pandemic has altered the entire world. It has changed how we travel, how we don't travel, how we shop, how we eat out, how we engage with family and friends, how we teach and how you learn. All of that has been altered in response to this terrible disease that has impacted the entire world. Although, the disease for some is mild, yet it continues to take loved ones away from us. Some of those with pre-existing conditions, some of them in advanced age, yet still some that seem perfectly healthy and young. So it does not discriminate. It's hard to predict who is going to be impacted severely by this disease. I'm thankful for the scientists and doctors that continue to learn more about the COVID-19 disease process. Their discoveries continue to enhance our understanding and inform the protocols and mitigations that we need to take to continue to operate in this environment. And I don't want to go too far without thanking all of our nursing departments, our RNs, our LVNs, EMTs, paramedics, patient care techs, both students and faculty, for supporting the mass vaccinations in our community. Those vaccinations will make a tremendous difference. It's a very important tool to help us normalize or return to normal in the environment that we have. So thank you, a big thank you for all those student and faculty volunteers that have every week have been administering vaccinations Some weeks, 2, 4, 6,000 vaccines, I think was the highest vaccine total. So it's important, and we're supporting that as an institution, because the more people we get vaccinated, the quicker we can resume more normal operations. Is it ever going to be back to pre-2020? I don't know, but at least it gets us moving in the right direction. But on the topic of vaccines, so the medical experts keep telling us that we should strive for an 80% vaccination, and that 80% of our population is vaccinated. That translates into what they call herd immunity, that will help, excuse me. Sorry about that. It'll help put a dent in the transmission of the COVID virus. And I know effective tomorrow, the governor made an announcement last week where he rescinded the statewide mask order. I really don't understand the reasoning behind it. I will tell you that we're not done with COVID. As much as we want it to be over, it's not over yet. Southwest Texas Junior College will continue with its masking protocols. Had a meeting as recent as yesterday with colleagues from the other 50 community colleges, and virtually everybody is keeping their existing protocols. We recognize that we're not done with it, and we have an extreme burden on our shoulders, because we're responsible for a lot of lives on our campus. Not only the 6,500 students that we serve, the 400 employees, but also their families. So I mean, that's a lot of lives that can be impacted and shaped by decisions that we make as leaders. Throughout this past semester, we had approximately 10 to 15% of our students on campus. Now, those students were predominantly in our technical programs. So we have some experience with students on campus. We've tested our protocols. And I will share with you that even though we had students, faculty, and staff test positive over the course of a year, none of those cases were a result of an on-campus exposure. Most incidents were a direct result of a family or close friend exposing them to COVID. So no on-campus transmission with those students and faculty and staff that we had on campus. And I'll share with you, as of Monday, these are the active cases, throughout the major counties in the service area that we serve. So Uvalde is doing a great job, 10 active cases as of Monday. Del Rio has 170 active cases. Eagle Pass, 927. Crystal City with 27. Medina County with 97. And Frio County with 98. So that kind of gives you a snapshot of what our service area looks like. The cases are trending downward. For Uvalde, 29% of its residents have been vaccinated, which is a good thing. So, and I say these things because, our plan for summer, let's take a baby step first. For summer classes, there's some caveats into our plan. And some of the caveats are what I've been explaining and what I've been talking about. And that is that the active cases continue to trend in a downward direction, and that the vaccinations continue to gain momentum and increase. So those are kind of two caveats built into our decision going into the summer, as well as barring any unforeseen adverse reactions for COVID, a new variant that's very transmissible and, increases the disease process, barring that becomes evident. Those are some of the caveats that are built into this plan. So with that said, as we ease into a more open environment, we're going to begin in April the 5th with our daycare. Our daycare will open in a limited capacity beginning in April, as will our cafeteria. Our cafeteria will open in April with limited capacity, primarily more grab and go food, but we'll space out some tables inside for eating in. Again, easing back into that. Our staff will return to campus during April, of course, in preparation for our students coming in the summer, which leads us to the summer semester. So summer 1, summer 2, our goal is to have approximately between 20 and 40% of our classes in a face-to-face format. We'll still require masking. Our capacities will be adjusted to maintain the appropriate physical distance between students and faculty. You will still have a Zoom option, so if you're not comfortable in the face-to-face format, we'll still have a Zoom option as well as an online option. So for summer, 20 to 40%, we will have dorms available in a limited capacity for summer. So that's our plan for bringing new students back on campus, again, with protocols in place in physically spaced classrooms. For the fall, our fall plan is to offer between 50 and 75% of our courses, again, in a face-to-face format. Expand a little bit more on our dorm capacity, and you will still be allowed an option to attend remotely. So that there's going to be a blend of sections, to accommodate. I understand there's variability amongst our students. Some of you are ready to come back even without a mask. Others with a mask, and others are terrified to come back at this point. I understand that. So there's going to be options to accommodate you. What will the classes look like? So we're working on the logistics to make this happen. As you know, it's making decisions for fall, making any kind of decisions is, I equate it to steering a carrier, a big ship that we need to plan way in advance where we want to be, because it takes a lot of little course correction. It takes time to turn a boat that big. So we need to start planning from today to have these protocols in place for when fall begins. Most likely, the fall class, face-to-face class, is probably going to be a hybrid model. And I say probably. Can you hear me? I'll get a note that's unstable. Okay. That we still need to maintain physical distancing. So what most likely will occur is the student will sign up for a Monday, Wednesday class, let's just say. They will sign up to attend in person on Monday, and they will attend Wednesday via Zoom. In that same class, there'll be another section open for students that want to attend class in person on Wednesday and attend Zoom on Monday. That's one possible scenario of how we can accommodate the students in a physically spaced classroom, because again, a class that would normally hold 30 students maybe only hold 12 by having the physical space. So we need to make adjustments. So that's one of the ways that we're looking. Again, it's not finalized yet, but our staff and team are working on that. That's an example of what it might look like. So it would give students at a minimum, one in-class face-to-face section per week, or one attendance per week. The other one may be Zoom. Again, it's not final, but that's one of the options that's currently being evaluated. Also, graduation. I know graduation is on a lot of people's mind, or the graduates' mind. So we have graduates, and I'll share with you. Every year, we have anywhere from 800 to 900 students that are eligible to graduate. That's a lot of students, and if you take those students times, their faculty, their family, we're talking a huge amount. You're talking 4,000 or 5,000 people, which is very hard to manage. And I know some of you are wanting a return to normal and have a ceremony like we've had in the past. And, given the environment that we're in, that's just virtually impossible for us to undertake at this point. Now, with that said, so our plan is to have a virtual graduation ceremony. However, we're looking at ways that we can change, improve what we did last year, and have some modifications to perhaps, an opportunity to walk across the stage by setting up stages at the different campuses, providing you a diploma, the appropriate background to have a photo taken. So we're looking at that. We're evaluating what's the best thing that we can do. But, given the size of our graduating class, it is virtually impossible for us to try to have a normal graduation. But we're working on how we can bring and enhance, I guess a good word is to enhance that ceremony for you, the graduates. So that's kind of the highlights of what our plans are going into the summer. I'm going to pause here, take a drink of water, and I can start answering some of your questions.
Yeah, no, so thank you for that information. All very, very good to have. So I just want to kind of add to the whole graduation deal. So being involved in the graduation ceremonies that we've had in the past, it is a very difficult thing. It is a very difficult thing to put on when everything is normal, when we don't have a pandemic going on. And what a lot of people don't understand, there's a lot of moving parts to a graduation, and it would almost be, anything is possible, but there would take a lot of resources to try and make a graduation happen. So I, for one, am for the virtual graduation. I understand that there are people that are disappointed with that, but we live in a world where, unfortunately there are disappointments. So moving on to the next thing. Oh, actually, we have some comments or some questions on the Facebook Live. So most of them you've answered already, but there is one here that I wanted to. So they're talking about vaccines, and I don't know how or in what capacity, but so the vaccines, I know that SWTJC personnel, faculty, staff have been deemed, I guess, eligible to get the vaccine. So can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes. So one of the ruling or the decisions made by the Texas Department of State Health Services was to change and classify the teachers, primarily K-12, as essential workers, almost like a first responder, to move them up in the category. And in conversation with our local health authority, he agreed that that should be extended to our faculty as well, especially in helping us prepare to bring more students on campus for the summer. So that was a conversation decision with our local health authority to get our employees given the ability to be vaccinated. And as of this week, I sent an email out to all of our staff last week. Anyone that had not yet received their vaccine to email me their information, and we provided that to them. So the last remaining, there's about 15 on that list. They should get their vaccine this week. So at this point, everybody that wanted the vaccine should have it in their arm. Now, we're not mandating that you have a vaccine, and I don't think anybody can mandate it. The FDA gave it emergency use authorization, and since it's in that category, we can't require it, much like the meningitis for the students. That is a required vaccine. The COVID-19 is not in that category yet. Perhaps in the future, as it moves up from emergency use only, then it may be a requirement in the future. But at this point, it's not a requirement. But for our faculty and staff, it has been offered, and those that have wanted it have made it available to them.
So on to the next question. Here is a question that talks about some of the courses. So Diego Garcia asks, I heard that the VCT program hasn't been renewed for this summer. I would love to take some classes that are unfortunately won't be on this summer. Would there be any record? I'm sorry. Well, that thing moved on me. Uh, so yeah, he's basically asking about VCT to come back this summer, or will he have to apply for another college? Apply to summer for another college.
Okay, so VCT, just for those that aren't versed in it, Virtual College of Texas, and it is a pool of all the 50 colleges in Texas that offers online courses, and they when they have excess capacity, that anybody from any community college can enroll in those courses. I know VCT has changed, so it's really not Virtual College of Texas anymore. It's transitioned to something else. We can certainly look into it and see, what that new option is, and see if we can make it. Obviously, if we have an online version of that course, I would suggest that you enroll with us directly. But if there's something that you need that we don't offer in our online capacity, then reach out to your advisor and let them know, and I'll reach out to our VP of Student Services so we can track that and see what can be done to accommodate your request.
Great. So that's that we have a another question about virtual graduation. This comes from Beth Rendon. Dr. Gonzalez, much larger universities are making it in person. Uh, are making it in-person graduation possible. I'm assuming what she's saying. What obstacles does SWTJC face that larger universities do? Are students and the public invited to attend any meeting regarding graduation alternatives?
So I can't speak to how a university is going to tackle it. I will share with you that in our conversation yesterday with other community colleges, with the 50 other community colleges, that everybody's pretty much in the same boat that we are. One of the things that is out of our control is we have no venue. So we have to assume we have to rent a venue for the day and make all of our preparations, the day before. So it's not something that, if we had our own significant auditorium or gym or facility that we could hold it, that we could control and manage and build the protocols as we go. That's one of the factors. The other factors is, as an institution, we have very limited access at this point. I can't predict what it's going to be like at the end of May or end of June. We have estimates, and as I said, for summer classes, we have caveats that we are making these plans on. We are making assumptions that we'll be able to continue moving in that direction. But even as I shared for the summer, it's not going to be a no mask without protocol event. So we have to factor in the protocols and how we manage that protocol, how we manage the separation in the stands, how there's just a lot of moving pieces beyond a student walking across the stage. In order for that to happen, there's a ton of background work that needs to occur. So I think at times the whole idea gets oversimplified. It's really a complex undertaking to have a in-person and the same thing. It's a huge undertaking to do a virtual commencement ceremony as well, and that planning is 6 to 8 weeks out to get that process in place to be able to have a virtual commencement ceremony. So certainty has a lot to do with it. We don't know what the environment's going to be like. It's certainly trended in the right direction, but I still don't think that we're going to be in a position where we can deem COVID over and let's just have an in-person pretend it's not out there. That's just not going to happen. And I have a responsibility as a leader to make the best decision for our entire institution, for our entire students. I know some students are ready to engage normally, I also know that there's students that are terrified and they're not ready for that, for whatever reason. You know, they may have pre-existing conditions, they haven't had the vaccines available to them. So I need to understand all that. You know, relating back to the governor's decision to declare no masking requirements for the state of Texas. The Capitol still requires masking. He understands, he knows that we're not past COVID, you know, so I don't know as I stated, I don't know the reasons for his decision, but we need to exercise leadership and do what's best for our institution, for our students, for our employees, and not necessarily what's popular in the polls. We have to, you know, exert that leadership and make the appropriate calls. And that's a heavy burden to have on my shoulders. But those are, you know, some of the factors that I have to weigh in.
Okay, so next question. You talked about you know, cases rising or dropping in this case, but so Jose Abel de Anda is asking, if cases unfortunately quickly rise once again, would you opt to make classes virtual once again, or would you continue with the ease into in-person learning?
Right. So those are, yeah, again, the caveats on us being able to move into a more face-to-face environment is, you know, as we're building the schedule, we're building that capacity to, you know, to turn the dial back, so to speak, and you know, move back into the remote setting. I think that's unlikely given the trend that we're going on, but it's built into the system to be able to do that if we have to. If we, you know, get mid-semester in and it just, you know, blows up, you know, we will be able to take a step back. And I want to pause there because we're investing a huge amount of money in smart technology in our classrooms, and this smart technology will enable us to be able to make those switches back and forth if we need to. So to answer your question, yes, if cases reverse their trends and go north, we will be able to take a 180-degree position and you know, protect our faculty into a more remote setting. Again, you know, we're looking at protocols to help mitigate some of these factors. You know, as more vaccines are prevalent, as you know, we continue with masking protocols, with sanitization, addressing airflow issues in classrooms. You know, even though we may see a creep up in COVID cases, with the protocols that we have, we may be able to sustain a more face-to-face environment going forward. These are things that we didn't have available to us a year ago when we had to decide, and we didn't have it available to us when we started the fall. We received a good sizable amount of CARES money in January that is helping us fund the necessary improvements to our technology that will put us in this position for the fall. Now, obviously, it's going to take time to get all these upgrades in place. We want to do some to have ready for the summer, and then throughout the summer have expanded that capacity in our classrooms in preparation to the fall. Again, there's a lot of moving pieces in order for us to bring you back to the classroom, and those pieces need to be put in place.
So I want to, and you know, we've had several questions, and this is the only reason I'm bringing this up. But so we're having I guess, some concerns about Congressman Tony Gonzales having an office at the college campus, and I know that you are preparing a statement of some kind. So I don't think that this is really the appropriate time to discuss it, just because right now we're trying to get information out about our COVID-19 relief reopen plan that's coming this summer and fall. So it's very important that we try and stay on the topic, but I do want to give you the opportunity to say something if you want to say something.
Sure, and I'll address that briefly. So the junior college has a history of working with our elected representatives, both in Austin and Washington. We've had both Democrat and Republican give commencement addresses We've invited whoever is in office at the time to attend our college gala. Both Republican and Democrat have attended the gala. We're not discriminating in that sense. Currently, we have about 16 vacant offices on the campus. That's just in Uvalde. And we felt that it would be a good step to provide access to our students, to our faculty, to our community, access to our elected representative, irrespective of the R or the D after them. You know, they are who represents us in Washington. They are our only voice in Washington. So it was a decision made to provide access for all of us. More access, I think, is better decisions. The college by no way endorses any of the votes, any of the positions of our candidates, but you know, having a campus, an office on campus provides access to share our opinions, to share our concerns with his staff, with him, and you know, get our voices heard in that manner. So
yeah, so that's good to know. You know, that's good to know. I mean, I think that, you know, providing access to our political leaders is always a good thing, because I think sometimes they get comfortable in not having to face the public that they represent. And, you know, certainly we can provide access to any one of our political leaders that represent us, either in our district or our state. I know that we've had several. We try and you know, go both ways as far as, you know, being right down the line and not being for one party or the other. So I don't think that it you know, unfortunately to say, I think we live in a time where, gosh dang, everything is politicized nowadays. I mean, just like the mask and I mean, it is just crazy, and we just have to use common sense, you know, just common sense. So I don't want to dwell on that, just because I think that it's not the appropriate time to be discussing that sort of thing.
Well,
so
and just add one more thing. You know, if it's a Democrat in office, that same opportunity is there. I know Representative King has an office in Laredo. You know, he happens to be from Uvalde, so he probably doesn't need an office on the campus. But you know, having the office space would make it available. You know, I certainly am not looking at the R or the D behind their name. I'm looking at, you know, who is our connection to Washington, who is our connection to Austin, and increase access to that person on campus if we have, you know, the offices available. Again, this all is predicated on us having that space available for them. And as I stated, we have 16 offices that are sitting vacant right now.
yeah, okay, well, let's move on to something else that we can discuss. So I wanted to discuss funding. So you know, the feds, they passed a bill in December, I believe it was. So it's basically CARES 2.0. I mean, it's got another name, but we're referring to it as CARES 2.0. So have those funds been released yet? I mean, I know we've had several students that have been applying for that, but have those funds been released, have begun to go out to students to help them with their financial needs?
So the funds have been received. And I will share with you that, let's see, tomorrow through Friday, you should be receiving your excess Pell money. So that money is going out. And soon after that, the CARES money, the CARES 2.0 is going out. It's a significant amount. We were awarded $2 million for the students. And I was going to say the amount, but I may be wrong. It's a significant amount. It's more than what was made available last year. So I know the application deadline has closed, and I want to say there's like 1,500 applications for that CARES money. It's going to go out. Now, this CARES 2.0, we'll call it that, Sarissa, I think is what it's called, is the rules have been relaxed a little bit. You know, the first round, you had to be Pell eligible. And, you know, so that's been released or relaxed a bit. So now it's becoming available for our AEL students, adult education literacy students, our workforce training students, possibly even our dual credit students. So this pot of money is going to be more robust. We also received a significant amount, $6 million for the institution. The lion's share of that money is what I referred to earlier as the investment in smart room technology. So when you do come back to the classrooms, you will see a noticeably different environment in the classroom as far as technology-wise. You'll have a lot more capabilities in those classrooms thanks to the CARES money that was received. And you know, in addition to that, the House of Representatives right now is voting on what's the, trying to think of the name here. Well, for our discussion here, CARES 3.0, you know, the newest version, you know, that the House passed, Senate passed, and now it's back to the House to reconcile it. But that has another significant amount for both students and institutions. So that's going to be another pot of money coming forward to, again, help bring students back to the classroom and help us with the tools that we need, with the protocols. If we need to purchase more plexiglass, masking, you know, testing, all the nuances that we need to bring students back on campus. You know, we're going to have access to more of those funds to make that happen, as well as more CARES aid money, emergency aid money for students to, again, help you. Now, this emergency aid, you can use it for tuition. You can use it to pay your rent. You can use it to pay your utilities bills. I mean, there's a very simple application form that you fill out. And the only thing they require, I don't want to speak out of turn. My understanding was that you had to apply for financial aid. Doesn't mean that you have to get awarded, but you at least have to apply for it. And they do that to make sure that, to determine need. But I'm not for certain that maybe somebody on the chat box can further address that response. I'm not sure that it's still a requirement. It's my understanding that it is, but I may be wrong.
So I want to go ahead and just go to the comment section. And this is not really a question, it's more of a comment, which we also welcome. Daniel Gomez, I am a CDL instructor at the Eagle Pass Technical campus, and I applaud you for keeping the mask mandatory, which even though Governor Abbott last week is, I guess that starts tomorrow, I believe. So he's going to lift the mask mandate and open 100%. But just to answer the question, so SWTJC will continue to, not enforce, but they will keep the mask mandate. You know, that while you're on campus.
That is true. You know, and I'm saddened by that decision because it creates a dichotomy that is, you know, it doesn't have to be there. You know, so in the very simplest, you know, observation, it makes him look like the good guy in some eyes and makes us look like the bad one in others, knowing full well that we have to make this call. You know, if you're truly responsible for the institution that you lead and for the lives that interact with that institution, the students, the employees, you know, you keep the mask mandate because we're not there yet. You know, look at any reputable medical professional and they'll tell you we're not there yet. And why, you know, stir the pot, so to speak, and say, you know what, wear the mask if you want to. I'm not going to mandate it, knowing full well that I have to mandate it, you know, for our institution. So I end up looking like the bad person, and that's okay. You know, I accept that. I'll take that burden on my shoulders, but it is a responsibility that I have in the position that I'm in. That, you know, perhaps some of your faculty don't have it. You know, they're like, yeah, let's have a graduation in person, because they don't understand the full implications of what's going on and the responsibility for me creating a super spreader event when I didn't have to. You know, we've lost faculty members. I've lost family members. I've lost friends to COVID. Some of them advanced in age, some of them not, you know, and it's, it doesn't have to be that way. You know, those lives do not have to be lost in that manner.
Okay, let's see here. I know I had another question here, but this thing is going crazy. So I just want to go ahead and I'm just going to move on to something else. So I want to talk about dual credit, which is just a huge part of our enrollment. So what do you see is happening with dual credit once we open up? I mean, it's already hard to manage, so we're going to have some classes that are face-to-face, hybrid. What do you foresee with dual credit going forward? Obviously, next fall.
Yeah, so dual credit is virtually half of who we are. Our 6,500 students, virtually half of them are dual credit. Now, we do have dual credit students on campus right now. Those that are enrolled in a technical program, they're coming to campus. They're coming to campus to attend cosmetology, automotive, different programs. So we do have, some dual credit students on campus. Again, as we prepare for the fall, there's a lot of moving pieces, and if I wait until August and say, you know what, we're going to go face to face in the fall, that doesn't give us enough time to plan. So I need to make these decisions right now. That decision was made in February in order to give us enough time to prepare from February to be ready in August, in late August. So I don't have the answer of what dual credit looks like. So I'm sharing with you our intent and our announcement, and I'm sharing with you that our teams are working to make that happen and looking at all the nuances that have to be addressed in order for us to have 50 to 75% of our students on campus. What that means for dual credit, I don't have the answer for you yet. It's probably going to be somewhere in between Zoom and face-to-face. A lot of the Zoom occurs at the high school. That's another variable that we need to account for. Make sure that the school that we're going to has the same protocols that we have, because we're sending our faculty over there. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and I don't have all the answers. If I don't make this decision, then we'll never have the answers. So that's puts in motion, the teams that are looking at all those specific items that need to be addressed in order for us to again return to a somewhat face-to-face environment in the fall. So we'll have more details, including how our course offerings are going to be. We'll release those details as we move forward, but we need to start somewhere, and this is where we start in order to get everything moving in that direction.
And totally understandable. So we also are a part of the Uvalde Events and Festival Association, which is Palomino Fest, basically. And so that's one of the things that we have to undertake is, so come Labor Day weekend, there's a festival to be had, but unfortunately we don't plan that the week before. We plan it, March, April. So the decision has to be made then whether there's going to be a Palomino Fest this coming year as we did last year. So, it takes a lot. And I think that a lot of people don't, and not that they don't understand, but they don't realize it because they've never been a part of it. And, it's just something that needs to be considered. So another question, something that I wanted to get to before we run out of time. So safety protocols within the classroom. I know you spoke about it, but we're having some people asking about COVID testing. Will faculty and staff be COVID tested? And maybe students. I know that that's always been the key to reopening, is if you had the ability to COVID test. So what say you about that opportunity?
Yeah, so we had a big discussion yesterday with all the presidents about that particular topic. And so, COVID testing is a tool, just like masking, just like vaccinations. Temperature, we take temperature right now. We do a self-assessment, no cough, no fever, not been around anybody with COVID, kind of a assessment prior to coming on campus or as you come on campus. What that translates to for the fall, again, we're working on those protocols on what's going to make sense at the time. The problem with testing is, in my opinion, from what I've read and from what I've heard medical professionals say, is people can be contagious 2 days before they test positive, before they exhibit symptoms. So, you can't put all your eggs in that one basket and say, okay, we're going to test everybody and then have a rapid test, because if you're doing a 24-hour turnaround, well, I mean, that defeats the purpose. But if you have a rapid test, 15, 20 minutes, and you get your results, that tells you that today I'm not positive for COVID, but I can still be shedding, virus, so there's debate on whether institutions, colleges should have COVID testing. From our discussion yesterday, a lot of the presidents with athletic departments were the ones primarily concerned about having more on-premise COVID testing, just because of continuous close proximity with the same group of students in an athletic, through practice, dorms, traveling to games, etc. We may do something like that with rodeo, but I mean, it's one of the things that we're looking at is an option for testing, but it would have to be almost those rapid tests to be effective.
So you mentioned rodeo, which brings another question to mind. Coming in the fall, spring, I mean, summer's not so much because there's not enough students on campus and whatnot, but come fall 2021, what will events look like? Or are we even looking at that yet at that point? Or are we just trying to get over this first hurdle before we even start thinking about that?
Yeah, so I want to walk the walk that we talk. So we held a rodeo last October. It was spectator only. I mean, no spectators. It was just contestants. And that went off, okay. Managing crowds is a huge undertaking. It's a huge resource drain on, making sure that you have the spacing in the bleachers and the concession stands and the bathrooms, and there's a lot of moving parts there. So I don't know that we are ready for that. Now, our window for the rodeo is probably not as long as the window for graduation, or the window for fall and for summer. Probably, come August, we'll make a decision whether, we continue in the same format as just contestants only, or we open it up. From what I've read, they're anticipating us reaching the 80% herd immunity threshold September. So, there's a lot of things that have to continue happening in order for us to reach it. Like I said, Uvalde is at 29%, so we're about a third of the way there. If we can get there sooner, that factors into some of those decisions. But I'm not ready to make a decision or a recommendation on the college rodeo at this point.
Great. So again, switching subjects. So the Texas legislature, they are in session now. And I know that you're very active with the TACC on lobbying the Texas legislature for, but what are some of the, what are some of the discussions going on right now, and how will the legislature help community colleges?
Great question. Yeah, so this coming Friday is the last day to file a bill for both our representatives and senators. The challenge, I'll start with funding. So funding is a challenge because we get funded on contact hours. Contact hours are, students enrolled in classes. And it's a snapshot that began last summer, included last fall and this spring. And they compare that to what it was 2 years ago. And across the entire state, and I'll venture to say across the entire nation, enrollments dropped, obviously. It's significant drop. Ours dropped about 6%, but there's institutions that dropped, in the neighborhood of 20, 30% in their enrollment. And, so that, you have less students. The legislature historically looks at that and says, well, we're going to reduce your funding because you have less students. This time they recognize, that the entire state is coping with COVID. Students opted to, have a gap year and not attend college this year. So they understand that, and they kept funding level for institutions as a whole. And I don't want to get into the weeds in here because it's a complicated process on how they determine appropriations. But in essence, they said, whatever we gave you last year, we'll give you this year when taking all 50 community colleges together. The distribution of that money varies within institutions. For us, Southwest Texas is sitting in a good position. We would see a slight increase in our funding from last year because our drop wasn't as great as the state average. So we're looking good in that from that perspective. There's also significant work being done to strengthen the transfer process. So as we, a lot of times it specifically impacts our dual credit students, but as they try to transfer to our flagship institutions, University of Texas and Texas A&M, it's often a challenge because they pretty much will dictate what they want to accept. And this transfer plan is going to strengthen those requirements and help prevent students from having to necessarily retake a course because they don't want to accept a certain course. So that's really good legislation that's being proposed right now. The other thing is we have requested that the legislature fund a $50 million to help create and offer quick credentials. They're called micro credentials. These would be credentials that a student could enroll and finish anywhere between 6 weeks to 6 months. Not quite an associate's degree, not quite as long as a certificate, but these would be micro credentials that would be industry recognized certificates that you could turn into employment in a very fast manner. So we're anticipating, historically, when unemployment goes up, enrollment goes up. So I graduate high school, there's no jobs for me, I'm going to go to college. And so we're expecting a bump in enrollment once we get over this COVID crisis pandemic. We expect, those students to start coming back. Not only do we expect the recent graduates from high school for the year 2021, but we also expect some of those that graduated in 2020 that decided to sit out a year, either because they weren't comfortable with remote setting, didn't have quiet spaces at home to be able to do their work. For whatever reason, those students that gapped out last year, this year, we expect some of those students to come back on top of the normal students that we get every year. So, we expect that enrollment to go up.
Yeah, so definitely just a difficult situation either way you look at it. So Dr. Gonzalez, we're coming up on 1 o'clock, so I think we've done as much as we can do for this hour. I hate to take away more of your time. I know that you have some plenty of business that you have to get to, so I'm going to go ahead and just cut it off there. I think we've answered a lot of the questions. Again, I don't want to discourage you to comment and submit your questions, but we're going to get to all your questions as we are able to get to, as fast as we're able to get to them. I'm going to go through all the comments. We have a couple of monitors that are helping us out. Miss Andrea Flores from our web presence coordinator. I saw Ryan Aldred, Dean Cheryl Sanchez. They're all commenting and answering your questions. So we'll try and get all those questions answered as best we can. And I want to also just, if you have a certain issue that you need addressed, Dr. Gonzalez has always had an open door policy. Obviously, it's not a physical open door at this point. It'll be a virtual, I guess, open door. So there's many ways to communicate with him via, email or phone calls or whatnot. So you're more than happy to talk to him that way. If there's anything else that you'd like to mention that we didn't touch on that you would like to get out there before we wrap this up.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your resilience as students, as faculty, as employees. Thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for caring about your neighbors. I know it's been tough, and I know we want this to be over, and we're on the right track to continue moving on. Be patient. We will get through this. We're, trying to get the right resources in place to bring everybody back to campus and have, a sense of more normalcy, in the future. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your lunch hour with me. I'm glad I was able to answer some of your questions. As Ismael said, we'll get to the other questions that you've listed. I can't see the chat box, but he'll give me a copy of what's out there. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for asking your questions. They were all very good questions. So have a great day.
All right. So thank you again, Dr. Gonzalez, for joining us. So I want to have a couple of reminders. We have our SWTJC website FAQs that you can find many of the answers to some questions that you might have. Our web presence coordinator does a great job keeping those updated. And then also, I want to remind everyone that you can share this live stream with fellow SWTJC students, faculty, and staff, and they can rewatch it. It'll live on our platforms to the end of time, I suppose. And then also, just a quick shameless plug, the SWTJC summer and fall registration begins April 5th. So now's the time to do everything you need to do. Apply for FAFSA, apply for SWTJC admission, do your orientations, and anything you do. So we will be having some virtual information sessions later this, later this month, talking about enrollment. So please, check back with us so y'all guys can get all that information. Okay, so I think we're done. Thank you very much, Dr. Gonzalez, one more time, and we'll see y'all.